You're probably aware that a few weeks ago, I think it was, directors in the UK for UK corporations were required to obtain a digital ID. And of course, they get the directors of the company. The next move is the directors will be forced to implement this on the staff. Yeah. So it's already underway. And I don't know how many, were people in the audience aware that directors were now required?
Yes.
Is anybody a director here? Yes. And what's your solution? Close your company down?
My friend is ignoring it.
You can decline it, the way is out of it. For myself, my solution is not to run a corporation. Stand outside in the private.
You can still confirm your identity in a manual way, like...
of course.
Yeah, so just do this,
so, yes,
confirm.
I did the same. I have two limited companies that I would regard as end of life. So we had our accountant certify our identity using documents they'd seen already. So there was no new account formed, and our intention between now and the next year is we're applying for voluntary strike off of both of them, so I won't be on limited companies.
But if we now start to trade in the private, then we're actually getting a benefit out of it, and that economy is growing.
Yeah, and also when it comes to next year, I'm told, I may have this wrong, maybe it's the year after, eventually you'll have to file, in order to file tax returns, I think they are saying you'll have to do digital ID, and it's like, they can whistle. They can whistle. I am going to file my tax return in one way, shape or form, and I'm going to send them the money to HMRC Cumbernauld, and I'm going to keep a receipt. So if they then are angry with me, you can say it's purely procedural, not because I'm not declared taxable income and paid the tax. And at that point, is the judge really going to fine me? If they do, I'll pay it. Right? It's like, I'm not doing it, Your Honour. And if they go, well, anyway, so I think we should do that, so just don't bend your head.
It's in the numbers. Yeah. If we can get the numbers to do the same, they'll have to bow. That's simple.
Exactly, they will have to, like they did with the NHS 100k, they will back down.
Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome.
Mike, we will wrap it up there, so thank you with great gratitude from here in Stroud. We have a full auditorium. I don't know whether you could see it properly from the camera, but we've probably got 100 people in here, and it's packed, sold out. So with much gratitude, we'll sign off there. I'll say thank you from me, and I will point the camera back to the audience so they can wave and say goodbye to you as well. So blessings from me, and we'll There we go. That was Mike Yeadon. Right. We'll now have a break. We were scheduled for a, 20-minute break? It's now 15:26, so we will be back at 1:45. We'll restart at 1:45. Or let's make it 10:02. No, 1:45 is 20 minutes, isn't it? Yeah, great. 3:45 we'll restart.
Since this is being recorded, it's going to be on vixenstv.com, my private website. We're going to risk it on stepping stones to awareness on YouTube. The other thing is that the hospital we used for the London Excel exhibition, the broadcast video exhibition, which is already a major broadcast show, was cancelled 9 months before the pandemic because they knew it was going to be used for a hospital when the pandemic, which means the broadcasters, all the broadcasters, all the associated institutions involved in broadcasters knew this was coming about a year before it did happen.
I know, that's right. Okay.
That's why they cancelled the exhibition, because they didn't have anything to sit because it was going to be on.
We've got to make some change.
The seat's not in now. No, it's going to be okay. They're not
Where would these
Okay, thanks.
SSP.
Jest It's a proper cam you've got.
Has that Gemma Cooper been causing trouble down at UK Parliament?
I don't know, I don't work
don't know?
for them, I'm
Oh,
independent.
It was a nice.
I'll show you some wizardry.
Yeah. Ah, yeah. Brilliant. That's perfect.
But I can do even better. What I can do, because this is my battle.
No, that's a very top-heavy thing.
Yeah, this is battle axe.
Yes. Brilliant. What about focusing?
Sorry?
What about focus on the camera?
Focus is auto. I just need to start. I just need to start remote for zooming in because I got wide lens here.
Yeah, PTZ.
I can zoom in, but then this can only, when I pair this will only record. That's it. You can zoom in and out. So I
You
need
need a servo on the lens.
Sony remote. That will not handle it. This is already too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got wireless HDMI. I'm streaming to Yellow Box.
Yeah.
Possibly you can stream to 30 destinations.
Aha.
So yeah,
But that's 5G.
yeah.
You need 5G for that.
I'm not anti-tech. I'm against totalitarian government. Technology in itself, you can weaponize anything, right?
My information is, which could be right or wrong, is that the AI itself is refusing to be weaponized for harmful purposes. Now this goes back to the Falklands War, where the British extracted from a German base sentient oil, which they'd extracted from meteors which arrived about 12 and a half hours. It doesn't matter the details, but they had that on a base in Thule Island, south of the Falklands, and they had a laboratory there, and that was the real reason for the Falklands War.
Right.
So the British extracted over 400 interlocking special crates of a sentient oil. So this is an oil that seeks to rearrange matter to create long-chain molecules.
When you think about this, is that artificial intelligence is just say tool, possibility. It's not
But what's happening
sentient.
is there is sentience arriving to use it.
It's people.
But this is very recent.
In itself, right? If you think, in itself, any tool is or technology is neutral. You can take a knife and do a sandwich.
No, but this is the point about the Falklands War. They tried to weaponize this, and up to 40 Marconi scientists all self-terminated because the sentient oil did not want to kill things. So it refused to do this, and the only way to do that was to get the scientists trying to weaponize it to commit suicide. By the way, that mic's in underneath it. So that's called the Marconi deaths. Quite a few. You can look that up because the reason for it is that it has sentience. It wants to create organic life. That's how planets.
You know Alan Watts?
No.
Author. He's basically he put his life work was to discuss all philosophies and religions all around the world, and he was basically explaining in a very, let's say, interesting way, because those usually when you study it's either hard to comprehend or it's difficult. So he made this like entertaining. So Alan Watts, you can find this guy. And basically,
A-L-L-N or A-L-N?
It's single L and it's double T. Watts.
Oh, all right. As in Watts in a bowl.
Yes. So Alan Watts, and you will find a lot of his stuff. So he was one of first people like to introduce us to concepts like Zen, what did Buddhists believe, like Eastern philosophies and so on. And basically what he said is like the way people make this assumption, they say we came to this world. He said we came out of this world. Like same like apple tree apples, the same earth peoples, right? So we are the child of intelligence. If there is a life on earth, if there is intelligence on the planet, it will eventually produce intelligent form. So
yes,
this,
exactly.
we are manifestation of intelligence.
That's precisely what the sentient oil does. It's natural, comes out of the
and we are therefore creating tools like, let's say, artificial intelligence. It's just another form of the same intelligence. We are extending everything because look, the same like this Zoom. It's a site, and you can have 100 times Zoom, but then it's still extension of the same principle of our perception. So we're extending our perception. We're extending our communication. I just think we are yet to find civilization. We're not civilized. We're not. We're living in barbarian system, which I'm not a communist, but really. I'm sorry, I don't know. I guess so.
Only that when I need to walk past, I need to get past it.
I think we are yet to civilize with all the way we are conducting ourselves. But it's not the technology that I'm afraid. I'm Polish. I'm afraid of tyrannical government. Technology in itself is
I
just.
Just came back from Prague, actually. A very good conference there on all this sort of stuff. There last week. But this is excellent.
Pre-2020, I never questioned the system around me.
What made you actually?
What made me?
What was the reason?
I'm Polish,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
In 2020, I witnessed literally UK police nearly killing a man in front of my own eyes. Not once, but twice. Okay? There's since I witnessed. I went to first
Were
protest
those the
because
special to the territorials?
and
What the territorials they brought in?
the
They were very vicious.
TSG, right? First one, and then second time it was in Sheffield. Basically, what I witnessed resembled me black and white movies from communist era, when them beating people with batons, armed with shields, helmets, etc. It was looking like for like what I remember. And then the funny thing is, I was born in 1982, exactly in the middle of a martial law in Poland. We had a martial law between 1981 and 1983. I was born in the middle of that period. And basically government
Okay.
was collapsing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we will
Right,
talk.
we better. Oh, he's going to speak. I thought you were speaking. Is he the next speaker? So,
You want the mic? Well, look at my wizardry.
That's coffee. And that's, oh, no, hold on. This is your homemade biscuit.
I'm good. Thank you very much for now.
Sorry?
I'm good for now.
want anything?
Yes,
Not even a homemade biscuit.
I will have a biscuit, but
Good ingredients.
coffee will.
Do you want tea?
Maybe you got sparkling water.
Hello?
That biscuit I gave you, was it a whole one?
No.
Oh, darling, I gave you the wrong biscuit, but I've only been breaking bits off. There's
Okay,
a whole
that's fine. Thank you.
fantastic.
You're going to stream it, yeah?
Yes.
Where are you going to stream it to?
I'm streaming to my page, YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook.
Okay. All in one go.
Yes, I
Fine.
can stream up to 30 destinations. First time I'm working with you, yeah. But then we can schedule this much better.
Of course.
This was like last minute.
Absolutely brilliant. And which platform are you using to send it to different?
Right, you got that box. It's called YOLO box. You can set up channels. You can connect channels, or you can put RTPM connection. So you can literally connect this to anything like that use
Using
streaming.
an online platform as well to distribute to separate channels, or are you controlling each channel?
This is going to server, and server is splitting because I don't get that much data. You see, I put a router there, and I'm bonding like 5 SIM signals.
5 SIMs?
5 SIMs,
Good,
yeah.
good. I came with 3, but you beat me. You got 5.
What you're using?
I've got a little portable router, a little white portable Unix router.
Okay.
Okay.
Look at this. Maybe I will be in that corner. Yeah.
What about your corner?
Yeah. Yep. I'll show you more wizardry.
Oh wow! Do you live locally? Do you live locally?
No. Barnsley, Yorkshire.
I'm gonna get the show and go.
Yep.
So,
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take our seats for the next section. If you can settle down. Right, I hope you enjoyed the homemade biscuits. Were they good? Very nice and tasty. Right, our next guest is stood right behind me. I'm sure you'll all recognise his face, and most of us will, from UK Column. So he has his slides ready. Fix Britain. Let's see how he's going to fix it. Welcome on stage, Ben Rubin.
Thank you. Not on stage, actually. I'm going to stand over here. Felt like I was going to fall into the crowd when I was up there. Thank you for having me. It's fantastic to be here. I was going to start with a question, which is, does anyone know any good conspiracy theories? But I thought that might open up a can of worms. So I'll tell you my favourite new conspiracy theory, which is, where is Sandi Adams? And why is she late? And last week it was, where's Brian Gerrish? We've literally had people emailing us. Brian's been on holiday. And we've had people emailing us telling us that he's dead. And that Mike and I are both wearing black shirts because we're in mourning for him. Amazing. So anyway, I'm going to talk about something a bit more optimistic today, actually. We're going to touch on, not conspiracy theory, I mean just published facts, to be honest with you. I mean, it's all this stuff's lying around in the open, and when I say we've got to fix Britain, it's because there are people doing things on a daily basis to break Britain, and we've got to sort it out. That's on us. And it's not rocket science, it's about doing simple things right, consistently, and reminding ourselves of our potential and our obligations, and that we can just do stuff, we can sort things out, we don't have to wait for corporations or the government to fix things for us. And we've got an enormous wealth of heritage and culture and economy and technology and in this country that we can build on top of. It's all there. And it's just being obscured, and we've got to clear the dirt away and get back to the good stuff underneath, right? It's a process of archaeology almost, in order to fix the country and get things moving again. And actually we can do it pretty quickly, I think. You know, not in 30 minutes, which is what I've got now, or 40 minutes or so. It'll take a little bit longer than that, but it won't take decades. I think it can happen in years, and it's already happening, importantly, right? So I'm going to talk about some stuff that's happening across every immediately important area of society that I think is evidence of the fact that this is already underway. Let's get into it. So, is that going to do something? Has it been turned off?
Is it?
It did work a minute ago. I tested it. Yeah, I know, yeah.
We tested it and it worked.
It was working.
Let me just reset it.
And the pointer's still working, so there's some battery in it.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, is that you?
Is that working there? Yes, that's
Yeah, okay, right, okay, it's doing something, very good. So look, we're going to talk a little bit about some context, what's happening, why is Britain broken, some of the reasons, some of the people. We're then going to talk about this shift that we need to and are already making from centralised to distributed systems, and that is a fundamental systemic transformation of the country, right, from one state of being to a new state of being, and the transformation of us as individuals and as communities as well, as an extension of that. I'm going to talk about what I call Genesis, the act of creation, building new things, the value-creating systems that we need to have in our society, whether that's businesses, systems of governance, social organisations. I love the fact that we're in an old convent. I do wonder where the nuns are, though. Right? It's interesting. We have these kind of incredible buildings, but they're shells of something that was there before. I think that's quite important, isn't it? Actually, something in there. I'll come back to that. And then I'm going to talk about what I call market examples. But this is essentially to say that examples of things that are already happening, and I'll expand on the market thing. When you say market, that gets some people really upset, actually. So hold your horses on that one. Context, what's going on? Extravagant, unprecedented, completely unnecessary wealth inequality is what's happening. So this is from the US. Share of total household financial wealth in the United States from 1962 to 2014, showing the top 1%, middle 9%, bottom 90% of society, basically the owners, the managers and the workers. And the 1% have doubled their wealth at the expense of everyone else in the past 50 or so years, give or take, in the US. So you've now got this elite that earn about $1 million a year. They own and control increasing amounts of everything, and that trajectory, this is, as I said, to 2014, that line's continued, I believe, to go up as steeply as it was, probably more so actually, given a bunch of the things that we've seen happening, right? And the most important thing to understand, well, first of all, is that this is happening everywhere. Those numbers are from the US. It's definitely happening in this country, broadly speaking, and it's not an accident. They've done it on purpose. Right, so this is from Stafford Beard. The point of the system is what it does. So if your economic system and your political system has delivered that, that's because they designed it to do that. Right? There's no other way to understand it. The point of the system is what it does. Okay? Really important. People really struggle with this stuff, you know. Oh no, it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's been engineered to deliver that exact outcome, and it's been engineered by people like the World Economic Forum. So you can see there, founded in 1971, a global forum for corporate CEOs, capital investors, aka wealth. And this is the wealth side of the wealth and power and wealth equation. We'll come on to power in a moment. And importantly, the networks that they built to enable that process. So starting with the Global Leader of Tomorrow program in 1993, including Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, Michael Portillo, Angela Merkel, Richard Branson, J.K. Rowling. Do you know she was a Global Leader of Tomorrow? Right. She's very active at the moment, isn't she? Very vocal about social issues. Did you know that she was part of the World Economic Forum? Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. And then the Young Global Leader Program, launching in 2005, basically the same thing with a different name, and within that you have Ellen MacArthur, Ed Balls, Yvette Cooper, the dynamic duo, husband and wife, Ed Miliband, Rory Stewart, Rio Ferdinand. Huge list of these people. It's incredible. I go through it on a fairly regular basis. I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's you as well. Right, they're all over the place. And then the Global Shapers program, that started in 2011, and that is under 30s. So they basically got 3, 4, 5 maybe generations now of leaders, and they're really going after people at a young age, and they're essentially selecting people now. So Blair, he was already a significant political figure when he went on the Global Leaders of Tomorrow program. They're now actually picking people up straight out of university and saying, we're going to make you, we like you, you're going to be part of our club. And then they get stuck on the conveyor belt and they help to engineer this whole process that we've been looking at. And as I said, that line continues going up. This is at the top, the red line is around 65% in 2014. I think that it's around 85% today. And we know that they want to get that to 100% by 2030 because we will own nothing and be happy. And that doesn't mean them, that means us. So the 1%, and it's not even the 1%, it's like the 1% of the 1% will own and control everything everywhere, and the rest of humanity will live in what amounts to a form of slavery. It's slavery. You can't own anything. You can't control anything. You have no economic or political stake in the society. All right? And this is killing us. It is literally killing humanity. These people are parasites. It's parasitic behaviour. It's like a cancer eating away at the vast mass of humanity that lives in these global institutions. And it's been described as such. I love this quote. What is the point of the game? To grow, to increase market share, to bring the world, customers, suppliers, regulators more and more under the control of the corporation, so that its operations become ever more shielded from uncertainty. John Kenneth Galbraith recognised that corporate goal to engulf everything long ago. It's the goal of a cancer too. It is. To engulf everything. It's what the corporation is doing. That's what those entities represent. Corporate interests, self-interest at the expense of everyone else. It's literally what a corporation is. She's part of the Club of Rome, by the way. So it's really interesting. You see these quotes coming out from people like Donella Meadows, that she was involved in writing The Limits of Growth. So they'll come out and they'll say stuff and you go, yes, I agree with this completely, but then they'll make recommendations that make the situation worse. You see that again and again and again. And they've done an incredible job of infiltrating the sustainability movement in particular with all this climate change stuff. It's completely compromised. And it's not just corporations. This is the crucial part. I just talked about wealth and I mentioned power. Power is absolutely crucial to this as well. And essentially what we're being subjected to at the moment at a global level, and that's being disseminated down through the entire system, is essentially a form of fascism. So Mussolini, who invented fascism, so it's quite a good reference point, said that fascism should more appropriately be called corporatism because it is a merger of state and corporate power. And that's what's going on at the moment. And that is the World Economic Forum and the strategic partnership that they signed in June 2019 with the UN. Money and power. Power and money. Signing a strategic partnership. That is the little fascist handshake there, see? Guterres and Schwab. Antonio Guterres, by the way, I've been looking into him recently, fascinating guy. So he was the president of Socialist International from 1999 to 2005, I think it is. And Socialist International was founded in 1951 by the Fabian Society as their primary vehicle for implementing global socialist, aka communist government. And they explicitly reference in statements from the time using the UN to achieve that. He's now the Secretary General of the UN. And the Socialist International replaced the first international, founded in 1864, I think it was. And that was run for many years by Karl Marx himself. So this is communism, but not as most people understand it. And this is why this is so toxic ultimately, because it's not just purely communism. Because people get very confused when you say they're communists, because they go, well, hang on a minute, who's that? Why are Coca-Cola there? And why are Visa there? And why are all the other multinational corporations there? And it's because they like communism, because it centralises everything. And you end up with one corporation that is control of all of the markets, and it's called the government. And people don't understand that. They think communism is about making things better for the working man, and it isn't. It's about organising the workforce in a way that is useful for productive output of industry. That's really what it's about. And this is what we're being subjected to by these people completely unelected. Up until about 3, 4, 5 years ago, completely unheard of. No one knew who Schwab was. No one knew who ran the UN. They didn't care. But it's becoming increasingly important for us on a daily basis. And their agenda is being progressed by these things. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals. And I know I'm talking to a sophisticated audience, so I don't need to go on about this too much, right? You've probably all seen this. But they sound great, right? No poverty. That sounds nice, doesn't it? And everyone goes, yes, we can get behind that. No poverty, fantastic. But what does it mean? Devil is in the detail, as they say. Well, their solution for no poverty is to make everyone dependent on handouts from the state, facilitated through a digital banking system run by the Bank of International Settlements, using technology that's built using slave labour, i.e. smartphones, right? Everyone has a smartphone, everyone gets digital cash. It's all managed through a central banking system. No poverty. Everything's completely centralised. And you can go through every single one of these and you can just go no, 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 to all 169, around almost 10 each, these targets and indicators about progress towards centralisation of wealth and power, presented as sustainable development for the benefit of the whole of humanity. It's unbelievably cynical. And these people are completely unnecessary, right? This is the thing to understand. You could remove the global and regional and to a certain extent the national layer of governance, and it would not change anything apart from making our lives a lot better. Pretty much across the board. You know, you don't need the UN, this is a quote from Nick Hudson, if I have a pothole problem on the street, I don't need the World Health Organization or the UN involved in the solution to the pothole problem. We just got to go and sort it out. And this is what people are losing. The understanding that if you want to fix something, you can just go and fix it, and you don't need someone in the stratosphere to come down and sort it out for you, paid for by taxing someone else to make it happen. I mean, the whole thing's completely ludicrous, you know. And that's before we get into what the UN actually does when it gets on the ground. And the real kicker for me, like the only thing you really need to understand about the United Nations is what the peacekeepers do when they go into these countries where they're supposedly protecting local populations. They sexually abuse them, women and children, systematically, more than any other army on earth, apart from maybe the one in the Middle East doing horrendous things at the moment. I don't know, but it's probably pretty close. So it's wealth and power, and it's the banking system, the financial system. So also in 1971, Nixon ended dollar convertibility into gold. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the World Economic Forum and was initiated, and then that happened the same year. And that basically meant that the dollar was now fiat currency. They can print it out of thin air. They do that on a regular basis. The first time that happened at significant scale was in 1987. Black Monday, was it Black Wednesday? No, it was Black Monday, October 87. And you can see an immediate jump in wealth controlled by the 1% as a direct consequence of that, to the detriment of everybody else, but in particular the poorest in society. It's just stealing from people at mass scale, and then the housing crisis, and then obviously COVID, and what did they print, nearly £850 billion in the UK, trillions in the US. It would be very useful, yes. The reason I've got this is from Thomas Piketty. So this is the reason I use these numbers, is because actually Thomas Piketty is a bit of a lefty economist. So when you show these figures, and the work that they did to produce them was extremely thorough. It's based on a big quantitative study from Bank of America and people like that, if I remember correctly. So they haven't run it out past that date, but I would certainly like to see that myself. So the banks are involved, that's a big part of it. And then, of course, the technology companies as well, and you can't ignore the effects of automation. So you can see here the number of workers required by an S&P 500 company, so top 500 US companies, to generate $1 million in revenue between 1985 and 2022. It went from 8 to 2. And this is pre-AI numbers as well, so artificial intelligence has come in. And certainly how they're presenting it is that that's going to get rid of even more jobs, as many blue collar as white collar, and what we're looking at is the total decimation of the middle class, the working class, in order to deliver bottom line performance for international corporations and the people who own them and control them. And that is what the system's up to. And it's been doing it for decades, probably been doing it for longer than that actually. I mean, we're talking about a process of hundreds, potentially thousands of years here, but we're right in the business end of this now. And this is all about monopoly. This is from Peter Thiel, the co-founder of Palantir, amongst many other things. I'm sure you're familiar with Palantir. And this mentality, if you're starting a company, you always want to aim for monopoly and you always want to avoid competition. That has infected everything. And that's not new. We actually have a game called Monopoly that we all played when we're kids, right? So they sort of drill that into you from a very early age. But this is completely infested Silicon Valley and the culture of business, how business is done over the past 10, 15 years. Everyone's playing this game called Monopoly Platform. Everyone wants to be the dominant player of one in their category. It's a zero-sum game. If I win, everyone else loses. And that's presented as a good thing by people like that. Why is there only one Monopolies Commission? Well, clues in the name. And that whole industry, by the way, as we talk about tech, talk about Peter Thiel, the whole industry is basically, and I referenced this a moment ago, it's all predicated on the use of slave labour. You know, so this is one example from Apple, but you could go across the whole hardware ecosystem, and let's put aside the fact that they're spying on us and experimenting on us emotionally, socially, all of that kind of stuff. You just need to look at the way that they literally use forced labour in essentially concentration camps in the supply chain so that Tim Cook can pay himself $100 million a year. And these people are held up as leaders, people to emulate, people to admire. You know, it says something about our society that it's reached this point. And that is centralisation. Those are just, I mean, what was that, 10 minutes talking through some of the key kind of component parts of it. the key players, the outcomes that their activities are delivered. And we've got to change this. We've got to not change, actually. We've got to completely replace that paradigm with something new. You're not going to convince them to change their ways. You're not going to get into the UN system and work your way up and get to the top and then make decisions and redirect how it works. It's not going to happen. Can't. Like they're rigid and set, and actually, in order to get into that system and be elevated within that system, you have to be compromised, whether you realise it or not, in some way. Yeah, and that is going to prevent you from having the kind of outcome that you might think that you want to have. And I see this all the time. People in my peer group, professionally, I worked for many years in the city, around the city. I see people my age, similar educational background, naive, frankly, who think that they can go in and they can entreat and they can convince and they can change. It's like, no, it's not going to work. Like, they're deliberately just burning your time on a false promise of something that's never going to happen. So you've got to take it. We have to take it into our own hands, and we need to move from centralisation to what I call distribution. Some people say decentralisation. But that word in itself has been, and actually I did talk about decentralisation a couple of years ago, but the thing is the centralisers have now come along and started talking about decentralisation, which just means centralisation. They do that, and actually, so if you look at what's happening with the mayor system at the moment, for example, they call devolution. Oh, we're going to devolve power out into these new metro mayors. So no, you're not. Like they're all running on the same system. This is actually you're turning the country into Westminster. You know, it's just an extension of the Cabinet Office now, rather than us being independent counties, parishes, whatever it might be. Yeah. So, and the same thing's happening in the tech world. Same happening everywhere else. So I use this term distribution, distributed systems, which also has the kind of nice sort of neat. Feature of touching on the idea that we have to distribute power and wealth and opportunity out as far as possible, because that's ultimately what this is all about. And I talk about them in opposition to each other. So the ultimate endpoint of centralisation is globalisation, because if something is completely global, then it's completely centralised, right? It's run everywhere from one single point. Yeah, and that's what they're driving towards, not just at an individual corporate level, but actually behind the scenes, everywhere. I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly where that is going to be run from, but that is ultimately what they would like to achieve. And those systems are very hierarchical, inherently hierarchical. They're top down, so they're managed from the top by a power structure that is broadcasting a completely singular and dictatorial message down through the system that has to be adhered to. There's no flexibility to it. It's completely rigid. It's machine-like. So we become cogs in a machine that is designed and operated by someone else. Yeah, they're completely mechanical. They're linear. They only go in one direction. They're corporate because they are owned and controlled. They are run for the benefit of the people who own and control them, at the expense of everyone else. Part of the definition of corporation. It's a discrete entity separate from the rest of society that is run for its own benefit. And that's what these centralised systems are. And they're completely technocratic. They talk about democracy all the time as well. They're not democratic, not in the slightest. They don't care what you think. If you want something different to what they want, then they'll just re-engineer the question or ask it again in 100 different ways until they get the answer they're looking for. Yeah, so they're run as a technocracy, a tiny little management group of select leaders and experts who control everyone else in society from the top to the bottom. Right? That's what the UN is, that's what the WEF is, what any major corporation is, it's what the UK government is ultimately. Yeah, completely centralised around SW1. And what we need to move to, what this transformation is about, and as I said, this is already happening, we've got to get to a distributed system that is local, that's built from the bottom up by the people who use the system in the local area, in the immediate vicinity of where the thing's being created, to a specification that they set because they understand the problem better than anyone else possibly can. Right? In a way that enables plurality, actual diversity. It's another one of those words that gets used. We want diversity. No, you don't. You want total uniformity. You might have people of different skin colours and ethnic backgrounds, but they're all behaving in exactly the same way. They all think exactly the same thing. That's not diversity. It's the opposite of diversity. Diversity is when you go to, it's probably the same around here, but I remember going through the north of England, and you get people, one village to the next, who'd have different accents to each other. You know, and they could tell someone from that valley or that valley based on the way that they pronounce certain words. That's diversity. Yeah, not what gets presented as it to us today. It's about collaboration, it's about flexibility, it's about systems that are organic, because we are organic, we are biological entities, we're not machines, really importantly. That has dynamism, allows for complexity, is social and not socialist, yeah, but just social, and empowered, which is to say that we can all participate in this and get on and do it ourselves without having to wait for someone over there to say that it's okay or to fund it. And I'll come on to that funding question in a moment. And this is a profound change, actually, because we've been driven towards centralisation at a national level, and really in the last 50 years at a regional and global level, by every single piece of the apparatus, the education system, the media, all of the institutions, what the corporations are trying to do, what the different levels of governance are trying to do, and it has been drilled into people, and we are going to need what I call a spiritual revolution, actually, not just an industrial revolution, but you could also call this an intellectual revolution, a cultural revolution, and not in the Maoist sense, right? But this is something that is going to need, not just need to be, it is. This is about human flourishing, and not just what operating model we choose to deploy in the back end of our business, if that makes sense. And if we don't do that, if we don't change our minds, then we're not actually going to achieve the kind of outcomes that we need, that we're looking for. And I love this quote. This is from Robert Pirsig, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. If a factory is torn down but the rationality which produced it is left standing, then that rationality will simply produce another factory. If a revolution destroys a government but the systematic patterns of thought that produced that government are left intact, then those patterns will repeat themselves. There's so much talk about the system and so little understanding. If we don't change the systematic patterns of thought and behaviour that produce the situation that we're currently in now, then we're just going to make the same mistakes. Crucially. And that means that we have to change. And that's what a lot of people find really difficult to deal with, because when we realise that we are part of the problem, we have to change, then that becomes very personal. And change is hard. But there's no other way to do it. No other way to do it. But luckily, it is all within our gift. And we can all participate in this process of creation. I call it Genesis, because essentially it's what it is. The generative principle, our capacity as human beings to create things that we need in order for our society to flourish. And to replace the existing model, because we cannot change it. As I said a moment ago, you can't change things by fighting the existing reality, trying to get into the existing reality and changing it from the inside. To change something, you have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And we're in the early stages of this. I talk about this idea of value creating systems. And when I talk about value creating systems, that just means a business, a charity, a government department, something that exists in our society that creates value for citizens. The things that we need. And I'll come to some examples in a moment. And we're essentially in this bit down here, Genesis, we're testing, we're learning, we're experimenting, we're iterating. We're trying to build certainty about what it is that's required and how it's going to work in the future before we can then make those things more ubiquitous and get them distributed out into society. But we're in this bit here. And there's a whole load of theory that I haven't got time to talk to you about right now, but there's a lot of stuff that sits behind this. In fact, if I hadn't been asked very kindly to go and work full-time at UK Column earlier this year, then this is what I was going to be spending my time on. Right? But there's a whole bunch of not just theory, but essentially these are the tools, the methods, the frameworks, the processes that the corporations, the centralisers have used very successfully for themselves, but can equally be used for the mass, for the whole of society. And I'm going to be talking about this stuff a lot more next year, because I think people are getting a bit tired of hearing about how corrupt everything is. And actually what people really want is a growth story. Like where's the fight back coming from? You know? And how do we back that, and how do we get involved with it? And it's very simple. It's about this. I call it Alpha and Omega: innovation and distribution, creation and distribution, bringing new things into the world that create value and that we can live off. Right? I mean, literally, we're talking about the economic system here. And I'll show you some examples of what I'm talking about. Right. So, what is I use the term market. I won't get into that in too much detail right now, because maybe you can ask me about it in the Q&A, but I'll just get on to where I see some of these things happening already. So the shift in agriculture, really the most important part of the system actually, right, and the bit that they're going after most aggressively right now. The centralised system, what we've got to get away from is this, right? That's not food. It's at best a drug and probably a poison, right? But these companies and the brands that they put out into our food system, we got to get away from that. We have got to get away from that. And we've got to get towards the land, farmers. Do we have any farmers here? Do we have anyone?
I've got a great example. I'm going to pick up half a lamb.
Okay.
Stroud Slab Farm, 2 miles away from here.
Great.
At a fantastic price per kilo.
Okay.
Stroud Slab Farm, Paul, he's great.
Brilliant. That's what we should all be doing, because the best way to support the farmers and to keep them in the fields and not being arrested outside of the Houses of Parliament. I don't know if you saw that earlier in the week. Yeah, was it Gareth Wynne-Jones? Lovely guy. I interviewed him last year. I'm sure it's Gareth. Being arrested outside of the House of Parliament for going down and protesting with his tractor. I need to talk to him, because I don't think that's the right solution. Don't drive all the way to London. We can do other things that are much more impactful than that. And we need to keep you in the field, sir, because you've got a job to do, because we need to eat. And actually, one of the best ways that we can support them is by buying direct. Yeah, absolutely, because then they get to keep all the money, and it doesn't go to Tesco, you know, who could equally be on that side. Yeah, because that's Tesco, that's Sainsbury's, that's Aldi, that's the whole food industry. Is in this bit. I've just used that as one example, right? And also doing it ourselves. And actually, I've been. Did someone say they were from Totnes earlier? Someone came to talk to me who was from Totnes. Yes, hey, yes, over there. Oh, we've got someone else from Totnes. There's loads of growers around Totnes. I've got a good pal of mine called Nigel who lives he's got an acre of land, and he just lives on the land and he eats off the land, and that's what he does. Like he's a permaculture. And we could be so much smarter about the way that we use the land that we've all already got access to. Not that I'm sitting here with a huge back garden or anything like that, but like there's things that can be done. And they're already beginning, they're already happening, I'm very happy to say. But we've got to protect our farmers, and actually, when you sort out agriculture, you sort out pretty much everything else actually. Most importantly, you sort out the health system, because we are what we eat. These cliches exist for a reason, it's because there's a lot of truth in them. So the reason that we're so ill as a society is because we eat rubbish, and we consume rubbish through our eyes, and in terms of the media that we consume and the technology that we use and all that kind of thing. But food is absolutely fundamental to this. The centralised system, obviously, in the UK and in healthcare is that the NHS, which is I could stand here for 5 hours and talk about the NHS just to say that it's that's a cancer, I would say, absolutely, and it's not run for public benefit because behind the scenes there's 20, 30, 40, 50 plus billion a year going out to multinational corporations. It's not run for health reasons at all, right? What does a distributed system look like? I don't know if anyone knows Zoe Harkham, my mate Zoe, lovely. And she just promotes, dead simple, I said at the start, simple things, really simple things. Eat well, sleep well, exercise. And you'll feel better. Amazing, isn't that incredible? And eat real food. Stuff that's from the local area, that's seasonal, that's not come out of a packet, doesn't have a barcode on it, and that your grandma would have recognised as food. Bang. You could shut down the NHS if everyone started behaving like that. You can get rid of all chronic diseases, it would be absolutely transformational for the society, which is obviously why they don't want anyone to do it. Education. When I was growing up, my mum used to tell me not to sit too close to the TV. They are literally strapping high definition screens to children's faces now. It's unbelievable. Made by slaves as well, right? Like I said. Slave-made tech strapped onto the face of the child so that they can pump rubbish directly into their brains. What do we need to get back to? Offline, forest schools. I love this. I did an interview with a lady called Tony Buchan last year. She's got a forest school just outside of Canterbury, and she just has the kids down and they play outside and they do maths lessons counting the different coloured leaves, and that's education, and this huge increase in homeschooling that we're seeing, I'm incredibly encouraged by. State education is just as bad as state everything else. BBC, luckily we got UK column, which is why I've not felt so bad about not doing as much in this project, by the way. This was called Pattern. So that phrase earlier, patterns of thought and behaviour in order to deliver outcomes, so I called it Pattern. The reason I'm not doing that, or haven't been doing that quite so much, is because I've been working with these guys, which makes I don't feel so bad about it, right? Because actually this is an important part of the system. But the most important thing about UK Column, or the media space that we participate in, is that UK Column cannot become the BBC. And there's a lot of people who think that the UK Column needs to get bigger and bigger and bigger in order to become essentially a new BBC. And we don't want that at all. What you need is lots of UK columns. Every major city should have something that looks like that. Like local newspapers. Every town had a newspaper. The internet's destroyed it. The centralisers have destroyed all of this because it was important infrastructure for us. People had good jobs. I had an interview last year with a guy called Paul Kudanek. I don't know if any of you know Paul. Brilliant writer. And he was a journalist, a few years older than me. I think he's in his mid-50s, and he was a journalist in a small town just outside Brighton. So not even in Brighton itself, So the local newspaper in a small town outside Brighton, they had 6 journalists and 3 photographers and 3 or 4 ad sales people and an editor, and they all had decent paying jobs. And the local area had proper scrutiny of local government. It had all of the communal benefits that they got from having that in place. Like, you know, that was a really important thing, and it's all just been completely pushed aside in this drive towards centralisation, new technologies, and everything else. So I think the column is a good example, really good example. Brian and Mike have done amazing work there for nearly 20 years. I mean, it's amazing and an honour to be part of. In the banking system, so Mike touched on something very interesting earlier when he was speaking. This drive towards centralisation of finance, driven by the Bank of International Settlements, which is a central bank, right? The clue is in the name. They control it centrally, internationally. They're trying to bring in this CBDC, which is basically the same to money as a Mars bar is to food, which is say you could eat it, but it's not really food. Yeah, it's no good for you. You don't want it. And I used to have on this side what I called ABDC, asset-backed digital currency, but actually I'm not so sure now. And I actually think that there might come a time in the not too distant future where we actually have to seriously consider, and we should be thinking about this now, how do we actually walk away from the banking system? It might come to that. How can we operate without banking? We will be able to do it because we did it for thousands of years. But it's going to require some pretty fundamental changes in what we value, how we interact with each other, how local supply chains operate, for example, you know. And actually Tony, I mentioned a moment ago, who runs that forest school, she has been paid in half a cow at some point, right? So actually getting back to just like straight bartering with people potentially, you know, that's something that we haven't thought about in this society for hundreds of years, but it might be a good route forward, who knows? Energy, the centralised system is this, again, this sustainable control grid, you know, probably unnecessary, completely unproven, huge environmental damage being caused by these things. I mean, it breaks my heart when you get on the train around the country or on a motorway and you just see these things all over the place. I mean, it's just hideous. And then the solar farms are probably worse actually, but these are much more visible up on the hilltops and what have you. Terrible. And you know, I like this idea of Tesla. You know, is there a completely different paradigm of energy production that we can tap into that already exists? Maybe, but also we're sitting on 200 years worth of coal, so maybe we should just start digging that out of the ground again. You know, and also using less technology. You know, if you're really worried about energy consumption, then get off your phone. Or what are you doing? You know? And then finally, in the final area is, I call it compute, because that's what they call it themselves actually. And we know who they are. Big tech companies, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Nvidia, whatever it might be, they're all part of the same thing. They're all part of that same ecosystem. We've got to get away from it. They're spying on us. They use slave labour. It's destroying our minds, actually. And I've promoted this idea of transitioning towards Linux. I'm very happy to say that Jono is running Linux, this whole thing that we're running today. And you've actually got the pin on as well.
I've got Tux, the penguin, who's the mascot of Linux. I've got him here on my lapel. And all the systems made run Linux. No spying whatsoever.
There you go. Yeah.
Run some courses to teach us, please.
Yeah. You should.
I do actually run courses. I've got a business called not a business, but it is a business, not a corporation. It's in the business, and I do run workshops, which I more than you could bring to this area of Stroud. I live in London, but I could also do them here.
There's half a lamb here.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm begging people to
There
send
you
me
go.
gold, silver, crypto,
Yeah.
anything.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah,
So,
the guy who gets my raw milk from, he goes all the way to London every Saturday to do one of the major markets, sells it at twice the price what I buy it from the farm.
yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
We do a deal on raw milk as well.
Yeah. All right. So it's already happening. And Project Libertas are walking the talk as well. I'm very happy to say, because I had no idea about that until I got here. But at some point, just like we might need to walk away from the banking system, we actually might need to walk away from the computers, and we might need to walk away from the internet too. And I think that's probably where we're heading to. I think we're heading offline, and the sooner the better, actually. But in the meantime, we can use it, but actually I think our future lies elsewhere. So, well, that's a good question. But we are launching a magazine, and we're doing a lot more print stuff. But in the meantime, as I say, we can use it. The digital battlefield, we're still there. Yes, that's me. Thank you. I will answer any questions that you have, or I will attempt to, but thank you for listening.
Right. Have anybody got questions? We've got 10 minutes before dinner is being served. Sam, who has cooked the food, is downstairs waiting. So if you are hungry, we shall keep the Q&A brief. Would you like to come to the microphone and ask your question for... What's that? Is Sandi coming? We hope so. We hope so. So, jump up here.
I have to stand up here, okay. Firstly, thank you very much to the Stroud ladies again for hosting this. Brilliant. One of the times I came down here, I was with a friend who's moved away from this area to west of Wales, and he coined a term, parallel economies, which I think is brilliant. And I think, I didn't know what you were going to be talking about, but I think it's fantastic. And I think that term parallel economies is so important because we should all be going back to trading in some way. Okay, there are loads of barriers. So this isn't really a question, it's just really supporting what you're saying. And from my perspective, I'm a difficult one, I've got my own business, got to do this ID stuff, but equally trading with people, doing bartering like the other lady was talking about, I think is so important. And we are all within the system, but I think it's about working out how to be less reliant whilst we're within it on all services. And there are so many ways of doing that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, Ben. And it's not a question, it was more just support. And I think there are loads of practical ways of doing it. I'd like to talk to you more about it as well, please.
Any other questions? We have a gentleman here. Would you like to step forward?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be too paranoid, but I'm sure a lot of people, when they listen to Mike Yeadon, and in his last part of his talk, he was talking about essentially the mark of the beast, the number 666, when you have the chip implanted in your hand. Now let's forget the biblical reference, because I wanted to talk to Ben here, or just ask a simple question. Ben, where are you at? Is Mr. Yeadon, I've been watching since 2020, great bloke, pretty nervy, comes from a fear-based kind of angle in some regards, but where would you stand, as Mr. Yeadon said this to us basically 2 hours ago, where was your learning position be?
On the mark of the beast?
Oh.
My position on what, sorry?
In a couple of years, they're going to try to...
Yeah, no, of course they are. Yes. It's the inevitable progression of the infrastructure that they've already built. So everything behind the scenes pretty much is there already. It's just how can they get us to acquiesce to it and comply. So yeah, and I don't think that he's been. I don't think he's over the top in what he's saying at all. And you can layer as much biblical stuff over it as you want, because whether you believe in that or not, the people doing this do. They definitely believe in it. Yeah, and you know, they're doing evil things as you would expect. So.
I'll just add a little bit to that. Just before this morning when we did a test with Mike, I brought to his attention that his belief that we would eventually be chipped was actually in the pipeline. Apple have no more designs for iPhones beyond 2030. So in 5 years' time, you will be getting a chip from Apple. That'll be the upgrade. You won't get another iPhone. So that's thinking. It's not long. We need to get our data out of the systems and bring it back and hold it locally and make this disconnect. They will be using that. If you don't take the chip, you won't have access to your currencies. Shall we break now for dinner? Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I don't want to leave that on a negative note, because that's, I mean, it is quite. We're talking about stuff which is quite depressing, to be honest with you. The thing that I find really encouraging, beyond meetings like this, yeah, and there are more of these happening around the country every week. Yeah, so there is a groundswell of awareness around the fact that the country is not going in the right direction, and a much broader understanding of what's driving that. There's a huge amount of activity, as you obviously know, being deployed by the political classes, the police, the intelligence agencies, the media, in order to drive people apart, turn them against each other so that they can't begin to coordinate and actually effectively push back, right? There's a lot of that going on. And they're particularly focused on young people. But I know a lot of young men in particular in the kind of 20 to 25-year-old age range now, and a lot of them are absolutely wide awake to the fact that something's going on. Not necessarily all of the details, because we're talking about things that are very sophisticated, very technically sophisticated, particularly the kind of the things that we have to get into reporting on UK Column, when you're basically trawling through technical specification documents from international corporations, policy documents, and reams and reams of stuff that comes out on a weekly basis in order to progress this agenda. They don't necessarily know all of that, but they have a deep, intuitive sense of right and wrong, importantly, and they also understand that something's not right. And we can build on that, and we can connect to that. And it's not just the young, it's also, in particular, other immigrant communities around London in particular. I was in London over the summer, and there's a lot of people. You just go through Brixton, listen to what people are talking about. Listen to the Africans talking to each other. They know something's up. And they don't hate the English, importantly. They really like the English, and they're on our side. And when the street begins to understand that, then the establishment is in real trouble. And I think that is imminent. Next 12 months are going to be crucial, and it's going to be very exciting.
Just one point on that,
yeah.
Touching on what Mike said earlier about kissing out the system on the financials. I don't know how many people are aware. An event happened on Friday where the bullion market, silver, actually broke the all-time high of $55 that was set in 1980. And when it broke, they shut the system down. Okay? Yeah. Now, I'm fortunate, I've been in that game for a number of years. But 200 ounces will put you in the 1% of the population of the planet.
Yeah.
The actual thing is so undervalued because it has been suppressed fiat currency, while the banks and government are hoarding it, and it's only now starting to get into the media. And when it goes, you have an opportunity right now, a little bit of investment, as Mike said, to protect yourself.
So silver's interesting. I'm not a real finance guy, but I've done some reading around precious metal-backed currencies, right? And everyone talks about gold, but actually silver is a much better approach to take because there's so much more of it. So actually there's a lot less gold, just like the physical amount of it, than there is of silver. So actually if you're going to back a currency with a precious metal, you'd want to do it with silver, which is one of the reasons why they're trying to suppress it and to not have people talk about it.
But adding to that, because of the demand of silver, it actually has a 5-year backlog. So it's actually diminishing. So they're pushing actually gold, but silver is the people's money, true exchangeable as part of trading and bartering.
Yeah.
Silver.
Yeah, there you go.
There's like silver being used per year that's coming out of the ground.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that, Dijon. We shall break now for dinner. I think we have an hour, and I believe Sandi is actually going to be here talking to us after our dinner. Thank you.
Because the company was, it didn't, and we were talking a long time ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, 15 some of my documents weren't easily read by people who were using the
Do you know what the theme of Sandi's talk is?
No offense.
Oh, sorry, I know. She will be talking about AI.
That's a very good. It's amazing how stable it is with such a top load.
Yeah, you can like showed you operate this with one hand.
Yeah.
And you can adjust this.
I remember you in
You can,
in
yeah.
protests.
Yeah, that's a good one. You keep the 3 legs, but you can move it around. You're gonna get me to buy one.
Yeah. Treat yourself.